Hello, everyone, and welcome to DIG CAFÉ, coffee talk with executives, experts, and entrepreneurs. You miss your old neighborhood coffee shop? Well, we kind of do too. And we wish we could meet that executive, entrepreneur, expert there on site, give us a little advice, some mentorship, some tips on how to pitch. In Cafe, the concept is the next best thing. You can drop in on the conversation, ask a question, tell us what's in your cup. So who am I here with today? My friend John Yarian and co-host. John, introduce your crazy self.
I'm John. I have a creative agency in Charleston, South Carolina called Outline. I'm drinking coffee, but I do miss coffee shops, and I'm excited to be with you guys today.
Okay, and just JD Weinstein. What's going on there in Austin, Texas?
Howdy. Thanks for having us on the show. Certainly, I'm missing the local meetings out on the lake here in Austin, but just coconut water and conversation with you all will do for now. Thanks for having us.
And then we've got Tom Rubenak here in Houston, Texas.
Hey, good morning, Stan and John. Yeah, great to be with you guys. I live in Houston, and I'll tell you, the thing I miss the most, as JD mentioned, is just connecting one-on-one or one-to-many. I miss events, and believe it or not, I miss the event world. So good to be here.
And nice. And then we have Harriet Parker from the DIG team. Harriet's going to share a special from Oracle later in the show. Good morning, Harriet. All right. So I'm going to toss it back over to JD. So JD, let's pretend that this is 4 months ago. You're meeting a friend or maybe a startup founder somewhere. Where do you like to go? Paint the scene for us. What's your favorite cafe?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'm kind of the outlier of the group, maybe in Austin. Well, we're a bunch of outliers, but I like to have my conversations at our local juice shop and switch things up for folks, adding some health in everyone's life. So Juice Land is the spot. Fortunately, they're back open, gotten the to-go thing, but we're making do here.
So are you going with a standard order at the juice shop? Or are you throwing in like 9, 10 different powders, trying to supercharge the brain, a little coconut oil? I mean, what's in that cup?
All the things, Stan. As green as you can get it. That's the secret sauce. Yeah.
I like it. How about you, Tom? Where do you like to meet folks? What's the space look like? What kind of people are there?
Well, coffee shops are great, restaurants, lunches, dinners. However, the place that I meet folks with at the most is at our innovation hub. So Accenture has innovation hubs all over the world, and we have one in Houston with about 30,000 square feet, and the place is just amazing. I miss being there and seeing a lot of my colleagues there. But we have many meetings there. It's very much open, and it's the environment is basically geared towards getting folks to collaborate and really get together and ideate, right, and do deals. So I miss that space.
You're with Accenture Ventures. Tell us a little bit about your role with Accenture and what does it look like today?
Sure, Stan. So my role is leading the efforts in the south of the U.S. Along with another colleague for our venture arm within Accenture. So we are a team of about 50 folks or so globally, and what we do is we curate, work with, identify, and team with startups all over the world. So we scour the earth for the world's best startups, and we team with them. And then as we work with them from time to time and win deals together and serve clients, what we also do is we invest. So we have a portfolio of about 30 plus companies that we do a minority stake investment and form deeper relationships with the startup ecosystem.
JD, I'm going to throw it back over to you. So Oracle for Startups is one of our sponsors for the DIG South Tech Summit, and we're now working with them on our virtual events. Tell us a little bit about your role with Oracle.
Yeah, sure. And more broadly, Oracle for Startups, we're kind of the startup division arm of Oracle. Goal is really to help leverage all of Oracle's resources to help startups grow within the ecosystem. My focus is very much so on the venture capital community and venture-backed startups. And so kind of helping startups that are either chasing fundraising or have just completed a recent funding round and are ready for kind of the enterprise customer connect or co-selling, integrations with Oracle, all that jazz. So that's what we've got going on here.
Good. John, any thoughts on the cafe and where we are this morning before we dive into today's topic?
Yeah, I've got a thought. I've got a spot I like here in Charleston, and I realize that a big part of the reason I like it is because I see a lot of people there by accident, or I should say unintentionally. It's like a big gathering place, and I like that randomness because things happen, connections are formed. I get energy from it, and it's productive for my business. I'm curious, we can start with Tom and work back to JD, but to what extent have you guys noticed the loss of that kind of random proximity effect and making connections or advancing relationships? And what have you done knowing that these days we have to be really intentional? You got to schedule something, really just do it all by osmosis. What's that change been like for each of you?
Yeah, John, that's a great question. So, I mean, listen, we all know this, the world has changed and the way we connect with each other has changed and will continue to morph. I think for the most part, some things are fundamentally the same, and that is making the connection and continuing to build the relationships that you already have. The Zoom and the Teams sessions have provided a level of complexity with connecting with folks. But there are ways that I see a lot of folks kind of mitigating that. What I found really helpful is actual phone conversations rather than Zoom sessions. There's something about just a one-on-one discussion that is still invaluable. And look, this is not going to be forever, right? I mean, this is not a permanent state that we're in. So keep that in mind as I think as the audience kind of connects to their ecosystem, making sure that you recognize that we're going to come out of this, and those relationships that you build and continue to build now, and having this common thread that we all have lived through. It's something that you want to keep in mind. How can you better connect with others in this difficult time?
How about you, JD? How's it changed?
Yeah, I think certainly it's it's really interesting working inside the technology sector because it's been fascinating to watch the digital adoption curve. I think from family members, folks in all sorts of different industries. We all here on the call, and I imagine folks that are tuned in are used to using different tech platforms and knew Zoom before 2 months ago. But that's been kind of a fascinating wake-up call. It's shifted pretty dramatically. The video call fatigue is a real thing. I think it's important, and you can pick up on a lot of nonverbal cues that way, and certainly for important meetings, for meeting first time, and things of that nature. But moving to calls and other kind of mediums is important because I think we're all it's exhausting. Some of the other ones that connecting is still top of the list, and so there's a lot of really great players that are working on different ways to spruce that up and to reduce maybe what we'll call Zoom fatigue. So I've been in a number of different kind of virtual conference rooms or settings that are Sims-like. I think that it'll be interesting to see some of these develop. One is called Sakoko, another one. I think Venue, to look it up. But anyway, it's we'll see what comes with all this.
Yeah, there is no replacement though for face to face, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we all aspire. That's what we all know. So, I would say be kind to yourself and acknowledge the fact that this is unparalleled in the history of humanity of what's going on now. So if you don't get quite that meeting doesn't go exactly as you thought it would, or your technology didn't work, something froze, be kind to yourself, because, we've never had to go through any of this. And that's the other thread that I think that kind of gets us all closer together is, as I mentioned earlier, the fact that we're all living through this, right? So I think people are a little bit more understanding, a little bit more giving in recognizing that if you're going to pitch, if you're going to be talking to an investor, it's not a perfect world, right? And especially now, and we all have a lot of different, a lot of different challenges that we're all working through personally as well.
Let's dive into the topic today, navigating the VC landscape and pitching in virtual times. That's the perfect segue there, Tom. So the slowing venture market, entrepreneurs and small businesses are struggling to survive and claim their place in this transforming world. Because obviously your pitch is going to look different when it's confined to this little Zoom window. Let's dig into a few strategies that could help make your screen time pay off. So, starting with the good news, despite some economic hits, there are some deals still happening. There's some deal flow. While the economy has shifted, it's not completely stalled out, especially in the tech sector. We've seen that in the NASDAQ, reflected there on Wall Street. But while we've never experienced anything quite like this before, we've had recessions in the tech bubble in the 2000s, 2008. And out of that, arose Airbnb, Uber, Slack, Pinterest, a lot of famous brand names today. Who has successfully navigated, in your view, the pandemic and been successful in turning this into a strategic advantage? Is there anybody that's sort of top of mind? It could be current startup you're working with, or it could be a big player that's setting an example.
I'll say that there are. There's a couple ways to think about this, and that is, if you take the pandemic and then you add the economics of it and where we're at. Right now, we're working with a number of startups globally that are addressing COVID, right? So from that perspective, we curated a map. Accenture has done a phenomenal job of really identifying key players that are looking at the pandemic in many different sectors. The other is the economics of it. So, as I look across our portfolio and the types of companies that we're focusing on, and they're all amazing. They're all doing a lot of different, value adds to our clients. Where I'm focusing on right now is specific startups that can bring cost takeout, or some level of quick cash generation to the business. So, as best as this would be a recommendation that I would offer the audience, is as best as you can, if you don't have that strong economic value statement and something to back it up, build it. Our clients are very poised with how do we come out of this thing stronger and better. And if you don't have that strong economic narrative, you're at a disadvantage. So where can your organization, where can your company really make an impact to the bottom line? I think it's key. So I've been spending a lot of time with a few companies. One of them is Splice. Another one comes to mind, and a variety of other ones that are just doing a phenomenal job of providing those narratives. So.
Very good. JD, how about you? Any crisis-inspired adjustments that you've seen?
Quite a few. I think kind of start with the obvious things where, one, like Tom addressed, there's a lot of amazing companies that are out there in the healthcare industry looking for solutions to contain this thing and bring our society back to a new normal, we'll say. Outside of the obvious ones where there's a lot of uptick in the different ways that we communicate, right? Whether it be different work from home strategies, right? Zoom is a big story that Oracle has been working with on a global level now for the last several months, power a lot of their services. I'll answer the question a little bit more broadly. I think there are a lot of companies that have done a great job of listening to their customers. And so we all understand that startups have this advantage of being able to pivot quickly and into new markets and serve what's going to be most important to customers. And, there's a lot of folks, I think, both I was on a call with a startup that we work with in the construction industry, Indus.ai, the other day, and they've got a machine learning platform that helps massive projects on construction sites increase their productivity. So doing asset tracking, all sorts of things. But in the midst of all this, things are still happening. They've shifted to the safety precautions, right? And tracing, and what can they do for a lot of these workers and construction companies out there. Internally for Oracle, a couple of startups, we have actually a really interesting story that we in the last several weeks has happened. A company called Sauce helps companies video, collaborate, and do better storytelling. And so increasingly, a lot of communicating messages online has picked up. And so Oracle actually would just acquire this company not too long ago. Another one's called Bot Supply. We work with in the chatbot space, and just seeing, right, all these customer service reps all of a sudden are working from new means, right? They're not in the office. They don't have scripts to go off of. People are in new environments. And so the more and more you can do to automate some of this is going to be key moving forward. But it's been really, I think, full of hope watching a lot of entrepreneurs and companies pick up, a lot of the slack and continue to innovate here.
Yeah, JD, I'll bolt on to that and just say that these, what's going to come out of this time, I think it's a whole new entrant of key players that are rising up, but new categories, right? So if you think about what's taking place in the market, I mean, this stay at home. I mean, if you look across corporate, including Accenture corporate, we're not going to be going back to the office as usual. So there's going to be many new categories that are being created that are going to stay. So I love that statement that you made, JD, about quickly pivoting. And I would definitely urge, if you have a startup that is on the forefront of something really big, by all means continue. That's another thing that we're focusing on at Accenture, is not just establish well-funded and moving startups that are already engaged in the market, but we also have a fund that we started for the entrepreneur, those folks that have that great next idea, and getting in really early with those entrepreneurs to help them develop that. So that's very exciting. So the challenge is you have an economic status right now, but as I mentioned earlier, this will pass, and what's gonna come out of it is going to be really interesting.
Guys, I'll share an example real quick. A client of ours, it's a CPG direct-to-consumer concept that had done a whole round of fundraising, but was pre-launch when all of this hit, called Omsom, O-M-S-O-M, omsom.com. And they had investors and stakeholders urging them to maybe slow down, things are uncertain. And they went back and said, what if we just put the pedal to the metal? What if we just proceeded and actually moved even faster? And that's what they did, and have had a really successful launch, and have now had a bunch of folks interested in a new round of fundraising who want in on the party. And what we discovered, and it seems pretty obvious in retrospect, but folks want to do stuff. They're looking for opportunities they can get involved in. They're cooped up, they're bored. These folks are used to making things happen. So if you can bring that energy, you're really going to do something, you may even get a little bit more attention than you would have 4 to 6 months ago. Because there's a lot of folks who are just kind of on the sidelines saying, we'll wait till the fall or 2021 or whatever. So I thought did something really innovative by just going for it and jumping into that blank space.
Yeah, John, that's a really good comment. We have a company we're working with, Contact Engine. They're pretty amazing, and what they've done is develop their technology for many different use cases and sectors. Right. So as you mentioned, if you can diversify, get creative, use this time to ask questions, not necessarily to pitch. Ask questions of your clients. What do they want, or folks that you may have not thought about that you would want to engage. Use cases, I think, are getting more use cases under your belt is very helpful.
Let's pivot to a minute and talk about cash. So, there's PPP, EIDL, people are coming up with various strategies to keep their business alive. Let's pretend that I'm a startup and I'm pitching to a VC and I'm asked a question about my current burn rate and what we're doing to preserve cash as we're also raising. Do you have any tips on smart ways to allocate what we have to plan 6 months from now in kind of an unknown transitional environment?
JD, you want to take that first, or?
Yeah, sure. So I always come back to, what's been preached at Benchmark for quite some time. So Bill Gurley at Benchmark, kind of a big tagline that he puts on investment thesis is limited resources typically force companies to make better decisions and then leading to better outcomes. And so though, calling for interesting times in what's going on with startups, we're going to see a lot of the really strong companies come out of this and survive. And so I think it requires everyone to really tighten up and be a lot more, not necessarily conservative, but a lot more direct with their spending efforts and where this is all going. As for kind of advice to entering in these conversations, a little bit of a different point that I'll share is that, VCs are really, when they make an investment, they're in this for the long term. And so a lot of the love and investments that are going out right now are continuing on into investments that they've already made. Now, that being said, lots of folks now are stuck at home, are not on vacations. It's summertime coming up, and investors invest in lines, not dots, meaning that every time you meet with them is a new data point for them to go off of. And so this becomes kind of a really unique opportunity for you to start meeting investors and building relationships sort of over the long term and understanding, hey, we're going to tackle this X, Y, and Z and be able to prove that over the next couple months. So when this does bounce back and we do get into more readily kind of venture financing available, you're going to be in a really good place.
Yeah. There was a survey generated by Houston Exponential here in Houston, and they did a survey of specific startups. And one of the questions was, where are you finding costs, to generate cash, right? So if I look across here, the survey, I'm just looking at it, reducing spend on tools, services, and software, 58%, reducing rent and office costs, 52%. So if you think about it, for a lot of folks, if they don't have that lease hanging on them, or if they're in an accelerator, and there's different ways to kind of look at that, and then reducing spend on marketing. So there are different ways that you can look to generate more cash flow, but obviously the main one is generate revenue, right? Getting in sales. And to JD and John's point, nothing is going to help you more than building those relationships now that are going to propel you forward when we come out of this thing.
Guys, you both have models, you've got algorithms, you've got conventional wisdom. We've referenced a couple of players who've got, some tried and true guidance. All of that stuff, as you look at companies and try to project their performance, is rooted in the world as it existed 3 months ago. Like, all of it's a little bit. Have you thrown it all out the window? Have you modified it? How do you think about the ways you lens or measure or apply metrics to project future performance, knowing that we're all headed into a future we don't have a data set for? Since that's such an easy question, JD, I'm going to start with you and then we'll work back to Tom.
That sounds great. Well, what all VCs will tell you is that when you present your future projections of your financials, the only thing that you truly know is that those are all going to be wrong. So I think that is the basis that we're moving off of. And this is what it means to be an entrepreneur, right? You are not necessarily predicting, you're doing a lot of future outlook. In order for you to be successful, like a lot of startups, this is something that Mike Maples from Floodgate talks about a lot. they look for really large markets that they're going to tackle now. And the really big companies are introducing and educating new white space that doesn't already exist. And so I think this is kind of what we'll call an inflection point that folks can look at into the future of putting together really thoughtful assumptions of what we believe is going to happen and follow that up with action. So I don't know if that exactly kind of addresses your question, but that's my best piece of wisdom for it.
We'll take it. What do you think?
Yeah, guys, I mean, look, these are unprecedented times. Again, we're all going to come out of this, but remember, the basics are still fundamentally the same. Do you generate the value? Can you quantify that value? Are you able to leverage your network? Are you able to leverage the ecosystem? Referrals, business basics. Just because we have this pandemic and we're starting, a recession here, that basics don't go out the window. So that's what I would just urge folks to think about as they continue to the day-to-day. What am I doing right? How can I do it better? What new things can I inject? Not too many, but what new things can I inject that is really going to propel me? And then keep the basics there. They haven't changed much. I mean, the world has changed, but it hasn't changed that much, right? People have not changed that much since this whole thing started.
We've got about 5 to 7 minutes left in the show. At this point, I'd like to remind everybody that this is recorded. It is also streamed live to Facebook. So Harriet Parker will send out a recap of this episode of DIG CAFÉ that will include links and special offers, opportunities, and it will also provide some contact information. Before we serve up the special, though, as kind of a last question for both JD, Tom, and John, do you have anything currently that you'd like to plug or anything that Oracle or Accenture or We Are Outline would like to share with the audience? And so that's part one. Part two is, what's the best way to get in touch with you and reach out? And again, we can include that information in the recap. Start with JD.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Stan. Thanks for having us again, Stan and John and Harriet on the show here. I think these are really important, and I've enjoyed, at least through all this, being able to be in a lot of different conferences and connecting with folks all over the world, back to back, not doing the physical thing. As for plugging, at Oracle, our main mission is to support entrepreneurs that are shifting the world in some way, shape, form. And so if any of that kind of stuff sounds interesting to you, definitely reach out. You can follow up with my email after this. What we're doing right now to help startups out with is so everything technology that we help to power, we are covering through the end of June, and then have some extremely steep discounts and things to help startups keep moving forward and continue back up on their feet after that. So that, along with, we're still doing the regular things of getting folks in front of as many different customers, PR forums, case studies, co-sell opportunities as we can. And so I look forward to continuing the mission and hopefully some entrepreneurs out there listening to this today too. Thanks.
Tom, thank you, JD. Tom, is there anything you'd like to share, specific to Accenture Ventures?
Sure. As we continue going through this process, I would say if in your audience, if there are any startups that have a very strong economic narrative, that's an area that I'm really bolting on right now. Please reach out. Would love to hear your story. Anything that has to do with helping clients be successful through this period and beyond, which, by the way, again, this will end, so don't stop there. But anything that focuses on helping clients weather this storm financially through some kind of takeout, I'd be really interested to hear about them as well.
Thank you, Tom. So now I'm going to take us over to Harriet to share a special from our sponsor, Oracle, and then I'll toss back to John for some closing thoughts and remarks.
Can y'all hear me? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Hi, everyone. Yes, thanks, Stan, and thanks, Bob, for joining us. That was really amazing. I really enjoyed it. Before we end today, we'd really like to give a big shout out to our partner, Oracle, whose mission is to help startups grow and flourish. We're huge fans and have heard nothing but success stories from the startups that have worked with this committed team. So if you are a member of DIG Nation, startup of any size, B2B, B2C tech space, looking for mentorship, access to global customers, migration, and tech support, this is the opportune time. Because right now, Oracle for Startups is providing $2,000 of free cloud credits to the DIG Nation members. Super excited to follow up with you all today, and thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Harriet. John, any parting thoughts for us today on the DIG Cafe? I mean, is your coffee cold at this point?
Look, as we wrap up, I think we owe it to the audience who's been forced to look at us to give them a quick hair status update. We're all trapped at home, and so let's all come clean. My hair is only trimmed on the sides. It gets longer and longer on top. We don't know where that's headed. So tune back in a couple of weeks and keep tabs on it. Stan, it appears, has had no haircut. It's just getting longer and longer. JD's pretty clean and trim. He's got a hat on, but doesn't need to. He's just doing it. And rumor has it Tom might venture cutting his own hair, or perhaps a friend or loved one will do it, although he's in pretty good shape. Tom, is that accurate?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But whatever little I have left, it'll be morphed this afternoon.
Yeah,
Well, look,
John has sort of an English Premier League look going there, you know, with the buzz on the side.
that's charity. Yeah.
There we go.
John, you're let me be honest with you. I think you have the best looking, COVID related hair out of us all here.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Look, it's been a pleasure to be with all of you. We appreciate everybody who's tuned in today or will in the future. However you're listening, thanks for joining us. We'll be back with more, but for now, thank you for joining us at the cafe.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Keep an eye out for that recap. It'll include a recording of this broadcast. It will also be available on the agenda at digsouthtechsummit.com, so you can view it for the next 90 days. We do save those for 90 days and then transition these videos over to our YouTube channel. So with that, we are signing off. Thank you for joining us. Tune in next Wild Pitch Wednesday at 11 a.m. and DIG Cafe in 2 weeks. We are bi-weekly with the show. So I'm going to get a refill. Thanks, everyone.